If you think that this most recent Bitcoin price action is bad, trust me, it can get a lot worse. In today's video, we'll be going over what just happened over the past 24 hours and what we should be expecting going into this new week. If you enjoy the content, make sure to smash that like button and subscribe. Without further ado, let's jump right into the video. So let's kick us off with the Bitcoin price action as we normally do. You can see right here that Bitcoin is just hovering below $90,000. Now, late yesterday, we managed to come back down and test this trend line. This was crucial because we talked about grabbing that liquidity, and we did manage to grab the liquidity, which was found right around $87,700, give or take a few $100s depending on which exchange you're looking at. So we grabbed this level. Does this mean that we are in the clear and Bitcoin will be moving higher from here? Only time will tell, but you can see we are indeed at crucial support on this trend line here. However, I am expecting it to break. The reason I say this is simply because we are seeing more and more longs continuing to pile into the market. That is not what you want to see if you are bullish. If the bulls want to hold, it would be right around this level. Otherwise, we have to talk about targeting $83,800 and then potentially $80,500. Now, let's take a look at this chart, which is the Bitcoin CME gap. Look, we did not manage to close the gap quite yet. So on this Monday, it would not surprise me if we do manage to trickle on up and close the gap before potentially rolling over once more. I am not actually favoring a move to the upside here. Now, of course, if we do get that move to the upside, I do stand to benefit much more. I have to make that extremely clear because you can see that I did enter my long from much, much lower levels near $82,000. Secured some profits, holding on to the rest of the position, that is. However, if we do get stopped out at break even, I am perfectly content with that and I will be looking for new trading opportunities in this market. I'm also in my Ondo short, but more importantly, some of you guys have been asking me about Bitcoin dominance. I actually think that Bitcoin dominance will be surging relatively soon. And you can see I am in a Bitcoin dominance long on Bluffin. Now, taking a look at the Bitcoin dominance chart, the reason I believe this is because the past few times that we tapped into this crucial support level, given the current market conditions, we managed to get a significant move to the upside. So right now, we tapped into it twice, similar to the previous cycle, and so I do expect us to actually go ahead and trickle on up above the bull market support band. Now, I did enter this position from much, much lower levels, so maybe it isn't wise to enter the same kind of position if that's something you're considering, but I just wanted to show you that I'm continuing to hold on to this position because I do think that Bitcoin dominance has a strong chance to surge from here. And if we take a look at this awful Bitcoin price action, you can see exactly why something like Bitcoin dominance would continue to increase. Because if Bitcoin does go ahead and have a more significant move, and then perhaps we get rejected once more, Bitcoin dominance will likely increase. If Bitcoin does lose this level and then we end up targeting this 83.8K level, naturally, Bitcoin dominance will also increase. This is not the environment for altcoins. We need to see stronger trends for Bitcoin, and right now this is still continuing to look like stairs up, elevator down, as per one of my previous videos. Now, speaking of dominance, we do not want to see USDT dominance break above this level. If we break above the 6.76 level, then it's highly likely that Bitcoin will be moving much, much lower. Now, I started the video talking about how this is not the worst we've ever seen with Bitcoin, and I wanted to show you an example from 2018 to 2019. Look at this absolutely horrible price action for Bitcoin before we nuked 50%. Now, I'm not necessarily calling for that, but you can see that this was an absolutely horrible market for people. This is where most people lose attention and they leave the crypto space, and naturally they miss out on this opportunity. I actually think that something like this will occur into 2026, and we might have some very, very difficult price action to navigate. Now, what was the move after this price action? Well, first, let's take a look at the date range. From around here, let's just say from Feb 2018 all the way to here before the big move, November 2018 that is. And then if we take a price range from here to the low, we essentially dropped 50% in one go after this choppy price action. So just because you don't think it can't get any worse, it doesn't mean that it can't get any worse. This is something that I'm actually expecting going into 2026. That being said, there is one key difference, and that is the bull market support band, where you can see that Bitcoin kept on getting rejected at the bull market support band. At this point in time, if we take a look at the Bitcoin chart and we zoom out a little bit, you can see that the bull market support band is actually all the way back above $100,000. And I actually believe that Bitcoin will be getting a counter trend relief rally at some point in time, which should bring us back above $100,000. The question isn't if, but rather when. We'll likely have to be extremely patient waiting for this opportunity. Until then, I still think that we will likely chop out a lot of market participants, and I do think it is more than likely that we come back down and tag $83,000, that is, then I think that my longs that I entered at the low here is likely going to get stopped out at break even. This is why you want to secure profits when you take these kinds of trades. Speaking of which, if you want to know exactly how I am operating in this market, which trades I'm taking on a daily or weekly basis, you do have that first link in my description down below. The only requirement is that you've signed up with one of my affiliate exchange links and you start trading on there as you normally would with your own capital. Now, I would typically recommend the second link, which brings you to Bluffin, because they do give you very, very good VIP perks where this reduces your fees, and over the holiday season, they do have a $1,000 bonus on the table for you. Remember, it's limited to the first 100 users, so if that interests you, make sure to sign up with the second link in my description down below. And while you're at it, join me in my free premium group on Telegram. So what is next for Bitcoin? Look, this is not easy price action to trade. Especially for someone like myself who is more of a swing trader, you can see that there are no clear opportunities in this market. If you start shorting from here, of course there's a chance that we could come back lower, but we still have some upside liquidity to grab. This is also what I want to discuss in terms of that counter trend rally, because you can see here that on the 24-hour time frame, there is liquidity on both sides. Now, the reason why I think that Bitcoin will likely be going significantly lower is because we still have some longs trying to catch the bottom here, piling into the market. It is relatively even on the 30-day time frame. Both cumulative short liquidation leverage and cumulative long liquidation leverage are at a stalemate. So, how do we proceed here? Because on the shorter time frames, you do need to understand that liquidity is also pretty even. But if we take a look at the 1 month on this Bitcoin liquidation heat map, you can see exactly why I still think that we will be having some kind of counter trend relief rally, because these shorts will not be getting away with it. Now, we can of course bleed lower and it would shake out everyone if we're expecting a move here. But I still think that these guys, if they don't end up closing some of their positions in profit, they will likely get liquidated. So how am I approaching this? It's very clear that we should be expecting some pretty shitty price action. Even if we get a rally, it will likely resume the downtrend simply because we are still very much in a downtrend. Don't fade the downtrend. If you're looking for trades in this market, the most obvious trades, in my opinion, would be if we start to get moves to the upside, looking for shorts, especially as we liquidate some of those higher up shorts that we've been discussing. So I will of course be monitoring the market and looking for the best possible trade opportunities that I can find. But at this point in time, I'm just holding the 3 trades that I showed you, which are my Bitcoin longs from around the lows, likely going to get stopped out at break even for the rest of my position. My Ondo short, this one is essentially just a free ride. And my Bitcoin dominance long on Bluffin, because I do think that Bitcoin dominance will likely surge as the price action continues to be shitty. Something else I wanted to address. We need to talk about quantitative tightening, quantitative easing once more. Now, if you've been watching the channel, I address this time and time again. This cycle was a cycle of quantitative tightening. That being said, we did not get the altcoin season that everyone was hoping for. However, and I do stand firm on this, if we actually get quantitative easing going into 2026, which I'll remind you requires the market conditions to be even more brutal than we're seeing, something like the stock market crashing, I do think that the next cycle, we will be seeing altcoins outperform. You heard it first. If you've been watching me, you know that I've been vocally bearish on altcoins for literally a year. Now, I actually think that the next cycle, given what we saw this cycle, will be a cycle for altcoins. I know that might sound crazy, and I have not invested in any altcoins, but of course, I'll let you know what my positioning is going into the bear market. I know some of you probably won't be able to believe that, but if the Fed actually has a reason to turn on the money printer going into 2026 because we get some kind of capitulation with the S&P 500, altcoins will outperform in the next cycle. What is next here? The only thing I want to talk about is Saylor keeps buying Bitcoin, and the price is pretty shocking. We also have the fact that $4 trillion JP Morgan is to launch their first tokenized money market fund on Ethereum. So building does continue even going into a relatively shitty period in the market. Just because it's a shitty period, it doesn't mean that you should leave, because there are plenty of opportunities to trade the market that is right in front of you, make as much capital as possible, and then going into the bear market, you can buy spot with the money that you made trading this market. That's at least what I'm going to be doing. Reminder, if you want to join me, you have that first link in the description down below. The last thing I wanted to bring to your attention, this market is far more difficult than previous cycles, which is why there's virtually no real edge or quality insight on this app, which is X. A lot of bullshit crypto influencers that want to tell you that we're either just going to absolutely nuke or we're just going to skyrocket. It's not that black and white. Chopping around does provide opportunities to trade this market. Many of the people who won in 2021 didn't succeed because of skill, they succeeded because everything went up. It was easy mode, beginner mode. The market rewarded participation, not competence. I couldn't have said it any better. What you're seeing now exposes a hard truth. Most people never understood the market in the first place. Instead of adapting and evolving, they've clung to the same methods that only worked in a vertical environment. To survive and make money in a market like this, you need relentlessness, obsession, emotional detachment, adaptability. Ruthless competitiveness. Without these traits, you will not beat the market consistently over a prolonged period of time. Be extremely selective about who you trust here and who you watch in the crypto industry. Look, I've been pretty vocal about this. I'm only going to be telling you what I think could be happening next in the market and how I am trading it day by day, week by week. That's how you make money in this market. I would highly recommend that you aren't watching 10, 20, or 30 different crypto influencers at this point in time. Pick like a solid 5 traders that you like, 5 different content creators, and if their views on the market have helped you so far, stick with them throughout the bear market. That is how you're going to make money in this market, because you will remain focused. Now, maybe one of those guys isn't me, and I'm not the guy that you've been watching and you want to stick with watching. No worries, but what I would recommend is that you watch only a max of 5, because otherwise you will likely lose capital going into the bear market. And that's most certainly not what we want going into the next bull. Only the patient will survive and make money in this bear market going into the next bull market. And that sums up today's quick video. So Bitcoin did go ahead and grab some liquidity, which we discussed in my previous video, but I do think it's going to be a relatively shaky week. And if you don't think that the price action could get any worse, well, I showed you exactly how it could in that 2018-2019 cycle. We essentially just chopped around for months, and then we ended up nuking afterwards, which marked the bottom. As I've been preaching, all you can really do is trade the market that is right in front of you. If you enjoy the content, make sure to smash that like button and subscribe. As always, I do have my bluff and leveraging tutorial right here if that interests you, and I'll see you in tomorrow's video.